the topic is revealing the supreme preciousness of Yi-Guan truth transmission through two holy revelations. The first revelation is the preciousness of learning Tao, and the second holy revelation is the preciousness of giving. Holy teacher says, the preciousness of learning Tao, learning in Chinese is 学. So the Chinese character of learning is composed of awakening above and the innocent child below. So we need to take a look at the Chinese character. On the screen, you can see the Chinese character for learning. And you can see the upper part is 觉, awakening. And the lower part is a child, means the innocent child. So the character learning is composed of awakening above and the innocent child below. Learning Tao is about awakening our inner true nature. If you wonder what this true nature looks like, just look at an innocent child. A child's mind is pure and unpolluted, allowing their true nature to naturally shine through. Therefore, to learn Tao is to awaken our own original innocent heart. And Holy Teacher continued to expound. To learn is to study Tao. So Holy Teacher first point tells us that learn 学 is composed of awakening and innocence, right? Which means to awaken our inherent innocent true nature. And how do we awaken our inherent innocent true nature? We need to study Tao. Holy Teacher says, to study Tao, Tao integrates heaven and human life. So those who are able to learn Tao actually have cultivated in past lives and possess a deep spiritual foundation. So all of us, we are learning Tao today, right? We are participating in a class, and which means we have cultivated many lives before, and we have a very deep spiritual foundation. So that we can have the opportunity to receive Tao, to learn Tao, and to practice Tao. So Holy Teacher says, and thus are able to encounter Tao. As we can see from this sentence, encountering Tao is not a coincidence. It requires a deep spiritual foundation cultivated in our past lives. But exactly how deep is this foundation? To answer this, let's take a look at the merciful words from the never-resting Bodhisattva. Never-resting Bodhisattva is our 前人. Our 前人, after returning to heaven, has given us many holy revelations. 前人 says, to be able to practice in the Chongde Great Tao community, to learn, to cultivate, to preach, and to serve, what causes and conditions have made this possible? It is not something gained in a single lifetime. This deep affinity has been cultivated through at least 3 lifetimes of inner spiritual refinement, and across at least 7 lifetimes, fields of blessings were created through helping and serving others. Holy Teacher continued to expound, and thus are able to encounter Tao, study it, awaken to their original nature, and illuminate the divine awareness and innate conscience within. As for how encountering and learning Tao can illuminate the divine awareness and innate conscience within to truly understand the miracle that happens at the exact moment we receive Tao. Let me share with you a very powerful message from the chief examiner of the three heavens, 三天主考师兄的讯文。Merciful words from the chief examiner of the three heavens. In his merciful words, 三天主考师兄 says, "You have now received the sacred point of our holy teacher, and this instantly burns away and severs the spiritual barriers that have obscured your true nature for over 60,000 years." So which means we have many spiritual barriers, and those barriers have obscured our true nature for over 60,000 years. And upon receiving the sacred point of our holy teacher, all those barriers were burned away and severed. So after receiving Tao, you must exert continuous effort to renew yourself day by day, nurturing your original nature. Once the clouds disperse and the sun shines brightly, your Buddha nature will radiate its light once again. If you do not become a Buddha, then who will? So Holy Teacher continued to expound, yet in the process of learning Tao, there are favorable trials as well as adverse trials, trials of reversal and trials of wisdom. Since the sacred point of Holy Teacher, 明师一指, is so powerful, so miraculous, so receiving Tao itself is a miracle. But to cultivate Tao and to fulfill our missions and to perfect our inner cultivation, we need to go through various trials. So Holy Teacher is now telling us what are those trials. There are favorable trials as well as adverse trials, trials of reversal and trials of wisdom. When we talk about trials in cultivating Tao, it's not always about facing physical hardships. Let me briefly explain what these specific trials mean as they deeply examine our true inner state. First, we have favorable trials, 顺考. This might sound strange. How can good things be a test? How can good things be a trial? And this is when heaven tests a cultivator with favorable circumstances, success or prosperity. And the test is to see if we will become lost in vanity, indulge in material comfort, and forget our original resolve to cultivate Tao. Holy Teacher explain what are favorable trials. Holy Teacher says, when you have your every wish fulfilled and everything is going perfectly smoothly, do you still hold Tao in your heart at that moment? When everything goes smoothly, be grateful for the grace of heaven for freeing you from worldly worries. However, we aren't meant to blindly chase after material wealth. In this world, as long as our basic needs are met, that's all we really need. Moreover, you are all different now. You are no longer ordinary new cultivators. You have studied the truth and are willing to work together on the great mission of the lost salvation. Shouldn't you dedicate more time and energy to holy affairs, striving and advancing earnestly? Heaven will never mistreat a true cultivator. Holy teacher means that we don't have to exert our energy on pursuing wealth in order to have more resources, to have a better life. Because time is limited. Our life is limited. So we need to devote more time and energy to help with the lost salvation. And heaven will never mistreat a true cultivator. Heaven may not grant you immense wealth, but it will absolutely ensure you always have food on the table and clothes on your back. Do you understand? Then how about adverse trials? Directly opposed to favorable trials are the adverse trials. After we begin to cultivate Tao, we might encounter various hardships in our daily lives. Perhaps setbacks in our careers, disharmony with our families, or even health issues. When facing these trials, it is very easy for human nature to complain. You know, humans tend to complain about everything. It's very easy for human nature to complain and mistakenly blame our spiritual cultivation for causing these misfortunes. And this trial deeply tests our faith. Will we give up, or will we remain steadfast and continue our practice despite the storms? It's human nature to look for something to blame when things go terribly wrong. But let's take a step back and think about it. As human beings, we all bring karmic debts. Everyone has karmic debts. We all bring karmic debts into this lifetime. These debts are bound to show up as bumps in the road. Furthermore, much of the frustration we experience is simply because we haven't cultivated well enough yet. Think about it. Probably we don't get along with people, with our family members or friends or co-workers or classmates well enough. It's because our interpersonal skills are flawed, and maybe we have a bad temper. Our temper is short. So disharmony at home or work is inevitable. And if we don't take good care of ourselves, like stay up late at night, illness is just a natural outcome. So instead of asking, why is cultivating Tao making my life so hard? We should realize that we are just facing the natural results of our own karma and our unpolished habits. Tao cultivation didn't cause these issues. It's simply revealing what we need to work on. Next, the trials of reversal or the inverted circumstances. Imagine this. You are doing everything right. You're putting in great effort. Yet, your contributions go completely unappreciated. You might even face unfair complaints. Or perhaps someone who was junior to you in the Tao community is suddenly promoted to be your superior. Or in your workplace, someone who is subordinate to you will suddenly become someone who can tell you what to do and what not to do. Under such upside down circumstances, where your ego take over, where you still continue to cultivate Tao with a pure heart? When we are caught up in these unfair upside-down situations, our first reaction is usually anger or frustration. We scream inside, "This is so unfair." But how should a true cultivator handle this? How do we pass these specific trials? Let's look at the merciful guidance from our holy teacher. Holy teacher says, when we face trials of reversal, the most crucial thing is to have a heart of tolerance, because trials of reversal never play by the rules. They often leave your mind unsettled and anxious. They often caught you in a dilemma where you don't know whether to step forward or back down. Therefore, we must learn to tolerate all of this and seek to understand the deeper reasons behind such sudden changes and unpredictable events. Again, Holy Teacher asks us to understand. When going through a trial of reversal, remember this: people may not see your worth. They may fail to see what you've done. They may not recognize your effort. They may even pass you over. But that is all right. What matters is that heaven knows, and heaven is the true judge. Finally, we face trials of wisdom. On the spiritual path, we will inevitably encounter confusing situations, rumors, or conflicting voices, and this trial simply tests a cultivator's wisdom. Do you have the clear discernment to see through illusions, recognize the right path, and stay true to your innate conscience without being swayed? Rumors and confusing voices from society are one thing, but what happens when the confusion comes from within the Tao community itself? This is where the trial wisdom becomes extremely critical. Let's look at what our holy teacher warns us about on the next slide. Holy teacher says, when your thoughts deviate even slightly, the moment you lose your Buddha mind, demonic forces will instantly invade and take over. Demonic forces. What does this mean? It means our mind is like a fortress. The moment we fail to guard our thoughts and give rise to greed, anger, or ignorance, we leave the gates wide open. And because of these negative thoughts, external demonic forces are immediately attracted and will invade our mind. Holy Teacher continues to expound trials of wisdom. Holy Teacher says, the times have changed. Now time is different. At this final critical juncture, Holy Teacher warns us that we must be resolute and cultivate genuinely according to the truth, because false Maitreya's and false patriarchs have already appeared. Holy Teacher hopes his disciples, which means us, can recognize the truth clearly, earnestly follow the one golden thread, and closely follow in the footsteps of our Grand Senior Elder Lao Tianren and Senior Elder Qianren. You must keep your mind steadfast and your thoughts unwavering. Holy Teacher says, everything I say comes down to this. You must hold fast the golden thread. Cultivation has reached the very end of the final phase, and you are about to face a great trial of changes and worldly calamities. I wonder if you, my disciples, are confident you can overcome it. What worries and frightens me the most is that, caught in this inescapable net of trials, if you lack true wisdom, how will you ever distinguish the righteous from the evil? After understanding the various trials, how do we remain unwavering? Let's look at the first key point on this slide. The secret is to take true understanding and awakening as one's teacher, 以觉为师. And this means we must awaken our original inner nature. When we stabilize our inner nature and manifest our true wisdom, we will surely not be disturbed by any external influences or demonic forces. If we can truly awaken our inner self, 以觉为师, our holy teacher promises us a beautiful state. He calls it success in every trial, 万事如意, meaning that no matter what trials come our way, we will pass them smoothly and turn them into blessings. What does success in every trial mean? Our holy teacher gave us a very touching teaching on this. Holy teacher says, one by one, these tests are given, gently placed in your life by heaven. When a cultivator faces a test, are you thankful, calm, and at rest? Or is your heart full of angry cries, blaming the earth and the open skies? If you accept what heaven has arranged, with a thankful heart that remains unchanged, trust that the pressure you now endure will make your infinite potential strong and pure. So beautiful. So, with this potential, how should we face our destiny? Let's read the next part. If you face fate's designs and life's every part with a sense of defeat and hostile heart, even a comedy meant to bring cheer might turn into a tragedy ending in a tear. Good or bad is completely in your own hands, unless you give up and fail life's demands. Step by step, clear footprints will show. In word and in deed, your achievements will grow. Tireless effort brings chances anew. Reverence and sincerity make miracles true. The Wai-Yang play is a wondrous sight. Don't just be a critic. Play your part right. What does it mean by not being a critic, only playing your part right? That means be a true cultivator. If you are a critic to the outer environment, especially in Dao community, then we tend to blame. We tend to blame other people for their faults, or we find faults with other people. But we just play our parts right, which means we play our roles right. And we do self-examination. If I have done anything wrong, if not wrong, then I keep on doing the right thing. We just play our own roles right, and do not be critical. Do not criticize other people's cultivation, because if other people is cultivating very well, then that is their merit and virtue. If other people is not doing well, is not doing right, then that is their own fault. And heaven is the judge. God is the true judge. We don't need to be the judge. So our Holy Teacher encourages us, don't just be a critic, just play our part right. So how exactly do we play our part right? Our Holy Teacher gives us the final instruction. Let's read the final verses. Carefully answer the tests you go through. Fulfilling your vows is the first thing to do. Never depart from the Tao's guiding light. Keep temple regulations, speak and act right. If you can practice this day after day, success in every trial will come your way. And when it is time to leave this body of clay, one day we need to say goodbye to the world. One day we need to say goodbye to the physical body, and this body is made of clay. One day when it's time to leave this body of clay, empty of clinging, the soul is unbound. Empty of shadows, true peace will be found because we have been a true cultivator. Amidst the glad music, the Buddhas will greet the diligent you whose striving is complete. At the dragon flower gathering, pure and so bright, you will bring Heavenly Mother eternal delights. And welcome back to our main topic, the preciousness of learning Tao. Earlier, we talked about the first point, taking awakening as our teacher. Now, let's look at the second point. Holy Teacher tells us that for us, white young cultivator, to be able to practice the great Tao at this time is not a coincidence. It is the result of deep roots and destined affinity. And this means we have accumulated great merits in our past lives so that we can have this rare chance today. Therefore, for the third point, we must deeply cherish this opportunity. We need to actively practice what we truly know and return to our original pure nature. And finally, look at the fourth point. To return to our original nature, we must do one crucial thing. Let go of the three minds, remove the four appearances, and be without grasping or attachment, and delight in the Tao without weariness. You might be wondering, what exactly are the three minds and the four appearances that we need to let go of? Let's take a quick look. In the Diamond Sutra, Buddha taught us to let go of this to find our true nature. Three minds and four appearances. First, the three minds. We must let go of dwelling on the past, stressing over the present, and worrying about the future. Why? Because time is an illusion. The mind should be free and unattached to any moment. And the four appearances are appearance of self, of others, of sentient beings, and of a lifespan. Let me share with you my personal realization on what the four appearances truly mean. Appearance of self. In the beginning, originally, our true spirit comes from heaven. Our true spirit is just a ray of divine light. It's a ray of light, formless and boundless. But the moment we descend into this physical body, we become a human. we descend into this physical body. We become trapped by its limit. We make the fundamental mistake of believing that this physical shell is the true me. And this creates a boundary, and it creates the ego. And clinging tightly to this limited ego, that is exactly what the appearance of self is, and appearance of others. Now, once there is a me, naturally, there are others. And this brings us to the appearance of others. When we cling to our false self, we instinctively protect our own interests. We become selfish. And this selfishness isn't our true nature. It is simply a mindset born from drawing a false line between you and me. Appearance of sentient beings. And because of the separation between self and others, then the three poisons, 贪嗔痴, easily take root: greed, anger, and ignorance. Blinded by those poisons, we lose our true nature, originated from heaven, and becomes sentient beings. And this is exactly how we fall into the appearance of sentient beings. Think about it. Why do we become greedy? Because we want to benefit ourselves, right? We want to have more than others. And when we fail to get what we want, we become angry and resentful. And we swing back and forth endlessly between this greed and anger. And that is the very definition of delusion, of ignorance. And appearance of lifespan. Because sentient beings create karma through this greed, anger, and ignorance, life becomes fundamentally bitter and full of suffering. And that is the result of cause and effect. Since people do wrong thing, then naturally they need to take the consequences. So their life becomes bitter and full of suffering. And to escape this pain, people desperately seek comfort and begging for blessings and a long life. And this brings us to the final illusion, the appearance of a lifespan. When living in this world, human beings constantly crave a long life of health, wealth, and endless blessings. And driven by this desire, people engage in vain pursuits. They pray to gods and Buddhas, begging for longevity and fortune, but they remain blind to a truth. All blessings in life are strictly governed by the law of karma, cause and effect. If we don't plant the right seeds, what is the point of empty prayers? If we don't do the good things, how can blessings be on our way? Now that we understand how these illusions trap us in suffering, let's return to our main slide. Holy Teacher urges us to break this chain. Once we let go of the three minds and remove the four appearances, what happens next? We will naturally be without grasping or attachment. And only in this pure, unattached state can we truly delight in the Tao without weariness. 好道不倦. Finally, we come to the grand conclusion of this first teaching, of this first holy revelation. When our hearts are free from attachments and full of joy, we naturally develop a true sincere heart. As this slide shows, with a sincere heart that resonates with the heart of heaven, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will surely lend their support. So if we want the divine beings to help us, first, we need to resonate with them with a good heart. And what kind of heart can be called a good heart? First of all, a good heart must be free from attachment, must be free from greed, anger, and ignorance. Of course, we cannot be 100% free from all attachments, but we can learn gradually, little by little, and gradually we can resonate with the divine beings. And of course, heaven helps those who help themselves. And then you will never walk alone. And this indeed is a supreme preciousness of learning Tao. And the second holy revelation, again, conveyed by our holy teacher, Ji-Gong Living Buddha, the preciousness of giving. Holy teacher says, in the beginning, speaking of the preciousness of giving, our holy teacher mercifully gives us examples of how people have practiced giving throughout history. Holy teacher says, in ancient times, Emperor Wu of Liang Wudi, built temples and bridges to cultivate fields of blessings. Who was Liang Wudi, and how did he cultivate fields of blessings? When we talk about Emperor Wu cultivating fields of blessings, we need to talk about his past lives. There is a beautiful story about his past life. In his past life, before he became a king, in the past life before the king, okay, he was not a king. He was just a poor woodcutter. And every day he went up the mountain to cut wood. And one day he came across a ruined temple, and the roof was partially broken, leaving 3 Buddha statues exposed to the leaking rain. And worried that the rain would damage the statues, the poor woodcutter went home and bought 3 large bamboo hats and gently placed them on the Buddha's heads to shelter them. At that moment, the mountain spirit and the earth god, 城隍爷, 山神跟土地公啊, saw this and immediately reported to heaven. A mortal woodcutter with a kind heart has built the 3 treasure shrine. Think about it. 3 bamboo hats are such cheap and ordinary items, right? But for a humble woodcutter, they represented the most sincere and wholehearted offering he could possibly make. You see, heaven does not look at the price tag of our gifts. Heaven looks at the purity of our hearts. Because of his pure devotion, heaven recorded a magnificent merit for him, proclaiming that he had built a grand 3 treasure shrine. So beautiful. In another story, on another day, when he reached a stream, he saw travelers struggling because they couldn't cross the water. Without a second thought, the woodcutter carried 7 large stones with his bare hands and placed them in the stream as stepping stones, allowing everyone to cross safely. At that moment, the mountain spirit and the earth god saw this and immediately reported to heaven. A mortal woodcutter with a kind heart has constructed the 7-star bridge. He was strong enough to cross the rapid stream alone, but his heart wouldn't let him leave the weak and elderly people behind. He had no money to build a bridge, only his bare hands. And those 7 stones were placed out of pure, selfless compassion. But remember, heaven measures the heart, not the material. To heaven, those stones were the glorious 7-star bridge. It was this profound and selfless giving that blessed him to become an emperor in his next life. His story perfectly teaches us that a true field of blessings is not built with money, but with a truly sincere heart. So Holy Teacher says, there were people who widely practiced the giving of fearlessness. And what does this mean? It means that using your own effort to remove the worries and fears of others. It can be a fearless giving, can be as simple as doing physical chores around the temple, to clean the floors, to cook meals for everyone, or just offering a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on when someone is stressed. You give them peace of mind. Whenever you step up to help and bring peace to others, you are practicing fearless giving. Holy Teacher is teaching us 3 kinds of giving. So the first kind of giving is material giving. Holy Teacher gave us the example of Liang Wudi, an ancient emperor in China. And the second kind of giving is fearless service. And Holy Teacher continued to teach us the third kind of giving, sharing of the truth. Holy Teacher says, there were those who walked the Bodhisattva path, providing the nourishing rain of Dharma, expounding the Buddha Dharma, guiding sentient beings onto the path of cultivation, and realizing the Buddha's vision. Throughout history, there have been enlightened cultivators who understood the meaning of life and witnessed the suffering of sentient beings. Out of pure compassion, they dedicated themselves to sharing the truth, guiding people out of ignorance. Their wish is simple but beautiful: to free people from their pain, to help them find their original nature, and let them taste the true divine joy of a Buddha. For us today, guiding others to receive Tao and inspiring them to resolve to cultivate and propagate Tao, this is exactly how we practice the sharing of the truth. Holy Teacher continues to expound. With great courage, they practiced all dhammas, eliminated attachment to forms, realized wondrous existence within emptiness. Here, practicing all dhammas refers to cultivating both external merits and internal virtues. All means both inner and outer. For our inner self is our virtues, and outer performance is to establish merits. As we saw on the previous slide, they built external merits by widely practicing the three givens: material given, fearless service, and sharing of the truth. But at the same time, they cultivated their internal virtue by giving without any attachment to forms. They do all of this out of 无为, out of their natural compassion. So, as we saw on the previous slide, they build external merits by widely practicing the three givens: material giving, fearless service, and sharing of the truth. But at the same time, they cultivated their internal virtues by giving without any attachment to forms. Because of this true and sincere cultivation, they were able to realize the ultimate truth of wondrous existence within emptiness. What is this? Wondrous existence within emptiness. I would like to highlight a profound concept here. People often misunderstand emptiness as absolute nothingness or a blank void, 完空. But in our cultivation, emptiness does not mean nothing. Does not mean nothing is there. Rather, this emptiness refers to absolute purity and innocence. It is a quiet, clear state of mind, and it is exactly from this pure emptiness that our most beautiful wisdom and divine virtues naturally arise. And this is the true meaning of wondrous existence. Holy Teacher continues to teach us today why young cultivators possess this karmic affinity to cultivate Tao. As myriad conditions converge, you join the Buddhas in the great universal salvation of the third period. Therefore, you must earnestly, this is almost the very last slide. Therefore, you must earnestly uphold sincere thoughts, preserve a pure heart, remain centered at all times. Remain centered at all times means abide in our true nature and radiating benevolence and virtue far and wide. If we don't remain centered, if we don't abide in our true nature, we are not able to radiate benevolence and virtue. Not to mention far and wide, maybe to people who are around us, we are unable to treat them nicely because ordinary people tend to be selfish. So if we can remain centered, we can abide in our true nature, then we can learn to be selfless without attachments and to radiate benevolence and virtue, and cultivate and propagate Tao, deliver sentient beings, and guide them back to the Buddha's path. Holy Teacher encourages us, practice this mind Dhamma guided by the one pervading truth. One pervading truth is our first treasure. And it is a Dhamma to refine our mind. So it is called a mind Dhamma. Practice this mind Dhamma in order to carry forward the paths of sage kings and virtuous cultivators. Why Holy Teacher mentions sage kings and virtuous cultivator? Because now it is a white young era. In the past, we have green young era and red young era. And in green young era, all those all those people who have cultivated very well and in the Tao lineage, who shoulder the heavenly decree, in the past, they were sage kings in Green Yang era and in Red Yang era. In the past, they were virtuous cultivators like Confucius, like all the great sages in Confucian school. So Holy Shu mentioned all the ancient sage kings and virtuous cultivators and encourages us that we can be like them. We can carry forward their path. So we need to contemplate our true nature. And once we realize our true nature, we can discover our inherent wisdom and divine virtues so that we can carry forward the path of sage kings and virtuous cultivators. And we can advance simultaneously in the three kinds of giving: the material giving, the fearless service, and sharing of the truth. And together have your names inscribed upon the heavenly roll. Thank you all for sharing this wonderful time with me today. Let's keep the Holy Teacher's words in our hearts, abide in our true nature, and continue to practice the three givens. If there are any imperfections in my sharing today, I humbly beg for the forgiveness of God and Buddhas. May heaven bless each and every one of you. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you.